tonight's township meeting, the August 13th, 2015 meeting of the Grand Blanc Township. And if we will start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, be led by Larry Anderson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, would you please join me in a moment of silence? In particular, this time, I'd like you to remember the Southfield Fire Chief that died this last week, the head of our 9/11 commission that died this last week. Also, Tom Ward, our former fire chief. Thank you very much for including them in your thoughts. Thank you so much. And now I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Thank you. I'm going to switch things around a little bit because I do want, after the Historic District Commission report, I would like the presentation of the refinancing of the capital improvement bond.
That's what it is.
No, but then I would like to then go to E on the back so we can vote on it and they can leave.
Oh, perfect.
So vote on item E right after the presentation.
That's
Right.
what, yeah.
Makes sense to me. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, Mr. Clevenger.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first presentation as a commissioner on the Historic District Commission. So good to be on this side of the microphone. Good to see some familiar faces in the crowd and behind the desk. Lots of exciting going on in the township when it comes to history, not just at the Perry House. I'm amazed at my 7-8 months as a commissioner on the Historic District Commission, what I've learned, what I've witnessed at the monthly meetings. Please join us Monday at our next monthly meeting, 4 o'clock at the Perry House. We're out there in the summer and the spring months. Once it gets cooler, we like to keep the heat built down, so we come over here to the Township Hall. And I think it's in this room, right over here to your right, where we meet for a committee of the whole. So I've got some updates for you. Please join us at our next Historic District celebration, Homecoming Weekend, Sunday, September 27th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is our second event of the year. You may have joined us in the spring. We try to have it around Memorial Day or just before the holiday. A great turnout in the spring, so we're hoping for more with the Homecoming Weekend. There were Civil War soldiers dressed up, music, Civil War cannons, great popcorn that I eat too much of, great coffee, donuts, treats, seamstresses, and my favorite is one of our commissioners, Don, who digs in the backyard. And he's found some cool stuff, and we've had some families that are passionate about it, so they come over and they will dig with Don. But before last month's dig, he was out there messing around on a hot July day, and he found a Civil War era uniform button. So we were examining it, and I had the youngest eyes on the committee. So I was able to see some certain letters and certain names. I think it's still under review by some experts, but that's just a perfect example of the great history of the oldest township in the state of Michigan, Grand Blanc Township, Charter Township of Grand Blanc, however you say it, but also that we should get involved, even if you're a township trustee, a board member, you've lived in the township forever, you might not be aware of what is undiscovered and what you might become passionate about when you've lived your whole life. So it's a great place to start, I think, is at the Perry House. You'll be surprised that all the work we've done at the Perry House, there's some plaster work going on right now in the main exhibit hall. We're really trying to get it ready to be rented for any event. I'm planning on maybe hosting my own birthday party there in February. We'll have to turn the heat on, please. But all jokes aside, we're hoping to have maybe small wedding parties, nice dinner events throughout the year. Not only will it bring some revenue in for the Historic District Commission, but it will also bring some awareness to the township, maybe even from outside communities, as given our proximity to Oakland County. We've removed some trees that were dangerous. We're trying to extend the driveway, and this will help with renting it, around the property next door so that it's not difficult to back up as it is now with the barn. We may be able to pave all the way around in a big circle, if you can imagine it, to the house next door. So I think that's still pending on an agreement there. But again, please join us Sunday, September 27th for the homecoming event. Supervisor Hoffman, I believe you're trying to secure a spot for us again in the homecoming parade on Friday night.
Yeah.
So you may see myself and other commissioners walking. I wish we could still throw out candy, but that's not the case anymore. Let's see, and you'll find if you just drive by there, even on not a monthly meeting like Monday at 4, you might find Don out there most non-rainy days, digging in the backyard, look for his van. It'll be parked up on the nicely paved parking lot, and you might be surprised what you find with Don. So I'm happy to take any questions about the Historic District Commission or Perry House, but thank you again for the opportunity and appointing me as commissioner. It's very valuable.
Yeah, Mr. Clevenger, how does somebody go about renting? Who do they talk to if they're interested in that?
Yes, sure. So a great place to start would be any one of the commissioners or walking in the township office. For those watching at home on cable television, you could start with Supervisor Hoffman or any of the board members here, and they'll get in touch with our chair, Debbie Honay.
We also, on September 1st, we'll have it online on our web.
We had somebody asking on our Facebook page this week.
Last I knew it wasn't available, so that's coming on September 1st.
We're looking at September 1st, that all construction will be finished, yes.
And Mr. Laddie's not here tonight, but it's my understanding he was reviewing the fee schedule for how much it would cost to rent the building for a number of hours or a number of months.
Very good.
I think we're going to be competitive as we want to draw it, kind of like the senior center, an attractive place to rent.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
And now, it's the presentation that we've been looking for from Ms., I'm sorry, yeah, about the capital improvement bond for the police station by Mr. Bazinski and Mr. Swatz.
Good evening, Madam Supervisor, board members. My name is Bobby Benzinski. I'm president of Benzinski & Company. We're a municipal advisory firm located out of Detroit, Michigan, and we do work all over the state. We were the municipal advisor when you financed the police station in 2006. What we have before you tonight is a resolution that, if you pass it, will begin the process of the refinancing of the 2006 bonds. The 2006 bonds can be called for redemption and paid off on April 1, 2016 without any additional cost. You pay the interest to that date. Obviously, you don't have approximately $10 million that you can just pay those bonds off, so you can borrow, and when you compare the new borrowing to the old borrowing, you will save approximately $55,000 based upon interest rates as of June 24th per year. And that is after paying all of the cost. What would happen, the resolution, we are recommending a negotiated sale with Fifth Third Securities. This would allow us to begin the process, put together the official statement, secure the rating, and then decide when to price the bonds. If the market seems to be moving upward as interest rates are rising, we would do it quicker rather than later. If interest rates are declining, we will do it later rather than sooner. What we would need to do is have this transaction completed by March 1st of 2016, because we have to give the bondholders a 30-day notice to call bonds. Right now, the projected interest rate, again, as I said, as of June 24th, was 2.97%. The interest rate on the outstanding bonds carry interest rates anywhere from 5% to a low of about 4.125. They vary every year, so there's a tremendous amount of savings. I would be happy to answer any questions, but I was kind of thinking that I would let Mr. Swets talk about the resolution,
Okay.
and then either one of us could answer questions as need be.
That will be fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Roger Swets. I'm with Dickinson Wright, and I've worked with the township for a number of years now on various financing issues. Based on the estimates that Benzinski and Company has given for what could be possibly saved on these bonds and some recommendations from Benzinski as to what parameters the township should operate within to try and achieve those savings, we've prepared the bond resolution for your consideration tonight. Now, with a refinancing like this, there are a few different ways to do it, but the key, I think, a key consideration that we would like to do is to get the legal authorization, which is what this resolution provides, approved and in place, and that will set kind of a range of parameters that the refinancing could be structured within. And that way then, as Benzinski and Company watches the market and interacts with the underwriter, the township will have everything legally set so that it can move quickly and nimbly to respond to market conditions. So what we've done in this bond resolution is we've set some parameters with a maximum amount of par amount of the bonds that could be up to $10 million, interest rates that could be up to 5%, final maturity as late as April of 2031, and then naming an underwriter and allowing for an underwriter's discount to be paid to that underwriter. Those are parameters. We're not expecting, for instance, the interest rates are not, the interest rate's not going to be 5%. But that just creates a window in which the township can operate to achieve these savings. And then the township supervisor and treasurer are named as authorized officers to go ahead and award the city to move forward with the process. And if the savings look like they're in this range that's acceptable to the township, then they can go ahead and complete the bond issuance and sign a bond purchase agreement and order the closing on the bond. So we've set this up so that it would be nimble for the township in that manner. But if there are any questions or concerns about that, the board is, just give us direction as to what you want to do, and we'll respond to those concerns. These bonds are very simple in the sense that these are what are called general obligation limited tax bonds. They're just paid from the general fund of the township. You come up with whatever budget available revenues you have to pay the debt service, and then that's what's pledged to the bondholders as security. Fifth Third Securities is named in the resolution as the underwriter, which is the organization Mr. Benzinski has been working with to kind of monitor these bonds and get these numbers for the township. So within those parameters and with that security, it's pretty straightforward, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, any questions?
Two.
All right.
You said a negotiation for maturity up to April of, what was the year?
Well, the final maturity on the bonds would be up to April 1, 2031, which is just matches what the existing debt service is.
Oh, okay, so up to, it wouldn't have to be bonded to 31, right? So,
Well, I think,
is that our intent?
I think it is. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 16 years left, and of course, we're just going to pay off the first section and then extend it to 16, right? Or can you bring it back?
That mirrors the current structure of the bond issue. You certainly could pay it off sooner than that if you wanted to, but you would need to really look, Benzinski Company has prepared this, just assuming that with your budget and so forth, you're going to pay it off on the same schedule. If you wanted them to look at an early payment, you could do that, but then that will increase the amount that's due every year, and that's an issue for you to figure out with your budget.
Madam Chair, through you. My thought process was that to take the $55,000 in savings and amortize that and just see what that does to the 16-year obligation. So, like paying an extra $100 on your mortgage or something, you know what I mean? I just wanted to see what the effect of that would be. If we, instead of reducing by $55,000 a year, we make the same payment. We're already making that now, right? Maybe we won't decide that, but my thought is, what effect does that have on that 16 years to make the same payment, right? I mean, people do it all the time with their homes, right?
Correct.
So I'd like to see that if possible. It might be a 2 year, maybe 14 years or 13 years, whatever that $55,000 effect does on that, right? It might not be that much, but.
I'm not ignoring you, I'm writing it down.
Oh, okay, appreciate that.
One thing that you have to do is that you have to have at least $1 of net present value saved under state law to do this transaction.
Okay, $1, right? So we can do $54,990.
No, I'm saying that, no, what you could do, what you're really gonna do, based upon these numbers, is figure out how much $886,000, assuming the interest rates weren't changing, would shorten that issue up.
Right.
Because that's your
Right.
real savings, the
Yes.
886. And then net present value, which is a discount of the dollar, gets you down to 725 overall, which is a $55,000 a year savings, not, okay? And what we will do is we can run the numbers that way and see if it shortens it up by 5, 10, or something in between.
Right, right, appreciate that.
And I wanted to clarify that if that's what you wanted me to do.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bennett?
Just to clarify, have we chosen who the underwriter is going to be, or is that something in the process we have to
In
go
the
through?
resolution, it's Fifth Third Securities.
Okay.
Fifth Third has contacted us. Fifth Third does a lot of work. Our role in this, we don't underwrite securities. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the township. And our role is to negotiate their fee to make sure it's competitive. Out of their fee, they have to pay the sales commission to the salespeople that sell the bonds to the ultimate investor. There's a market out there that, it's kind of like the real estate market. If you want to put a 1% commission on your house, people aren't going to sell it. If you put a 3%, you're going to get more activity. And it's the same thing.
So you negotiate what that rate is and try to get us the best deal possible.
And in the resolution, we recommended it not be any higher than $7.50 per $1,000 of bonds sold. We intend to scale that back.
Is that fairly typical as far as the fee, or is that lower than typical?
That's typical of a transaction of this size.
Okay.
Bobby, just had one clarification on the resolution that we're doing tonight. We can do the resolution that Roger presented and approve that, and then later on, we can decide if we want to do a portion to go to the principal or to take the 55,000, right? It doesn't affect the resolution one bit, right?
No, as I said, the resolution sets outside parameters.
Right.
So you can't go beyond what we said in the resolution.
Right.
You can certainly shorten it up.
Right.
I guess what I would suggest, though, I think it's good to have those numbers run. I appreciate, the concerns and all. We should probably move fairly quickly to come to some conclusions on that, because of possible changes in the market, and Bobby can speak to that more. I think you do want to be ready to go with this and not spend a lot of time on those details. So just good questions, good things to look at, but be fairly purposeful in making some.
Right, but we can approve the resolution
Yes.
tonight as states and
Yes.
still have the options, the other options later, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the original bond for? How much did it do?
It was about 10,800,000, I think. wasn't it?
10,800,000 or 10,600,000.
Yeah, you got
Six. And so the principal that's left,
10,800,000.
the principal that's left is how much? 10 million, is that what you're saying?
No.
No.
There's $9 million outstanding for the 2017 through 2031 maturities. The bonds are callable on April 1, 2016, but it's only the maturities 2017 through 2031. The 2016 is not callable, but you can't call it till April 1, which is the big.
Yeah. And one thing just to note, as I said, we're just kind of setting this out in broad parameters. One thing that's a little bit counterintuitive sometimes with the refinancing bond is your new bond is actually going to have a higher par amount than the amount of bonds that you're refinancing. And the reason for that is there are costs. There's this underwriter's discount, there's the other costs of issuance. That's all going to be paid out of the bond issue, and so that adds a little sum to the par amount of the bonds. Now, the savings that are projected in the numbers, however, are net of all those costs. So there'll be no cost due out of the township general fund, no checks written by the township, and the savings numbers you have are net, bottom line savings. So we could tighten up that par amount a little bit if you were concerned about it. But again, since you're absolutely not you can't use any of this money for anything other than refinancing the old bonds and paying the cost of issuance. So you can be assured we're not going to issue $1 more than what's needed. And so we just tried to build a little leeway in there. But if you have any concerns about that, let us know and we can tighten it up.
So if it was 9,500,000, for instance, that's all, even though we're authorizing up to 10, we're just doing the 9,500,000.
Right.
We would only do the to what it would cost to escrow the $9 million, because you have to put that in a fund, and it earns some money, but it's not a lot of money, because you have to buy direct obligations to the United States Treasury, and they're earning less than 0.25% for a year. Plus the underwriter's discount, plus the cost of issuance. That is what you would borrow. We would not borrow any more. And in looking at these numbers, the borrowing would even be lower, because this assumes a delivery date of August 18th. We're not going to do it in 4 days.
Not that good, are you?
My recommendation is, because it includes a borrowing of $197,000, which is the October 1 payment. That won't be included, so there's it'll be a smaller par amount than that.
One thing that may be helpful for you to understand is, these bonds could be issued, say, conceivably in September. Your old bonds are not callable till next spring. So there will be a little period of time where there are 2 bond issues outstanding. But what's going to happen is these bond proceeds will be taken and be put into an escrow fund and either held in cash or invested in U.S. Treasury securities. And under state law, that's such a secure arrangement that for state law purposes, these bonds will, the old bonds will no longer be considered to be a debt of the township, and those bondholders will slowly look to that escrow fund to get their savings. There's a little bit of cost there because, as Mr. Benzinski said, there's some differentiation between what you're going to be paying in interest on the new bonds and what you can earn on those Treasury securities. But the savings that are shown in the report now, if rates hold, that's a bird in the hand. The longer you wait to do the bond issue, you can increase the savings a little bit. But if interest rates go up, you could lose the savings. So there is potentially an interest in getting this done relatively soon, so that you can lock in that bird in the hand and know you have that.
Any other questions? Yes,
Just that we do have a meeting later this month, so if
Yeah.
we have those numbers, I think
that would be good.
we'll move forward.
I will get them to the treasurer within a week.
Good. Any other questions? Thank you so much. You did clarify a lot for us. I appreciate it.
I'm sure you understand it as clear as mud, though.
I know you.
Based upon our
I know
explanation.
you brought some of those things forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I would ask that we have a motion to consider a resolution to refinance the capital improvement bond for the police station.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Guzik?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Reardon?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's
sir.
that?
Good night.
Good night.
Try and be ready for you by the last meeting this month, okay?
Thank you.
Is Dave Conklin here?
Is someone representing?
Is there someone here representing him?
No, unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'm Linda Wiles Massey, the trustee to the board. I was not aware that he wasn't going to be here, otherwise I would have been prepared to give you the presentation.
I hadn't heard from him either, so that was,
So I will step out and call him, but in the interim though, I'd like, if you can reschedule. It has a wonderful report to give that allows all of you to see how well the GPL has done with the funds that have been allotted to us. But I will give him a call and try to figure out what's happening.
okay, thank you.
Watching cars.
Everybody is stuck in the
Stuck in the traffic, yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
It took me 25 minutes to get here.
okay, we'll move on. If he does come, we'll listen to his presentation. I have the good fortune now to present people that are appointed to, so many people that are appointed to our boards, and I'm going to do them one board at a time. The first one, the Genesee District Library. I am reappointing Sherry Bennett and Bill Delaney, who have been on the board. Bill started with GDL, and Sherry has been a progressive movement as far as how this board has worked, and worked especially with our Grand Blanc board. been a very happy situation, so we want them back. So at this time, I'd like to ask for the approval of those appointments.
So
Sherry?
moved.
Could we separate them out?
That's what I'm doing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just asked for the two. Mhm.
You want to separate
He
the two?
means-
Oh, separate each one?
Do a vote for Sherry
Oh,
Bennett and do
all
a
right.
I'll make a motion to approve Sherry Bennett.
I'll
Okay.
support that.
All those in favor?
Aye. I'll now make a motion to approve Bill Delaney.
Okay. Is there support?
I'll support that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Better say all opposed.
All opposed?
Aye.
So I couldn't hear. Okay,
Aye. Julie, myself.
okay.
Okay. Is that 2 or 3?
Two.
Okay.
They both get in.
Okay. And now I'm moving on to the Grand Blanc Library, and I'm very happy to have Becky Anderson will be our new representative in regard to our Grand Blanc Library. Would you stand, Becky, so everybody could see who you are? And this is your new representative. Becky has been very important with you.
I'll make a motion, we approve Becky Anderson.
Support.
Okay. That was support, okay, all those in
I'm
favor?
going to make one quick
Oh, yeah.
comment on that first of all, and for my fellow board members here, and others, Becky Anderson is, of course, my mother, but I want to assure you all I had nothing to do with. I was just as surprised today when I got a phone call from my mom saying, guess what? So I had nothing to do with it. Mrs. Hoffman invited her. They've been friends for many, many years. So
Friends and neighbors, yes.
Well,
I
knowing
think she'll
this,
serve the
maybe,
board
uh,
well.
Yeah,
And anybody who attended Grand Blanc High School knows my
I
mom.
would, Madam Chair, I would like to
Yeah,
make
revise
that
your-
comment.
Yeah.
Ms. Anderson has been a staple in the community, both with the school district, various elks programs, and homecoming
yeah.
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal
Yeah.
2 years ago. So she has Grand Blanc's interest in mind, and I'm proud to vote for her on the district library.
And she's there once a week at least.
The Grand Blanc.
And McFarland.
McFarland.
So we're very happy to have her
Yes.
now on our board. Thank you.
You have to vote. We have to vote though.
Just sorry.
Okay.
Just the one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
She's in.
Unanimous, thank you. And now I'd like to go on to the Metropolitan, we're supposed to have a citizen resident on our Metropolitan Planning Commission, and I have asked Monica Shapiro to fill that spot. Monica, will you stand? And she's been very, Monica's been very interested, in particular in roads and pathways and commit to fit and all of these kind of things that work in with the metropolitan planning. And so we're very glad to have her on.
It'll be nice to have someone to go to the meetings with, because.
Yeah,
I also
right.
said-
Scott is our board representative.
He has a son who's a senior, I think.
My son,
Yeah.
he actually graduated this day.
Just graduated, my son too, but.
They both graduated this year. Mhm. So very good. So thank you, Monica, for taking on this job.
Do you need a vote, or?
Yes.
Yes, I need a vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, oh, I didn't, we
I'll make a
didn't.
motion.
All
Okay,
right,
Scott, I'll support.
Okay.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. And now, in regard to the Historic Commission, we have two very important people that we are going to have to replace. So today, the one is Ginny Nag, who has been on our board since there wasn't a board, before there was a commission. And she has found that she just can't do all the things that she used to do, as far in regard to do the farming and so forth. So she has asked to resign, and so did Pat DeSarno, who was instrumental in our Civil War plot. So we're going to miss them tremendously. So, but we are we do have somebody here, okay, Aaron Wiles, okay, and he's going to take one of the places, and Scott Dodge is, I think, going to take it. I haven't heard the final say. I have talked to him, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him this week to get the final say on it, but we're going ahead with that. Aaron, would you stand up so people know? Aaron's been at the open houses helping us the last few times, even though he wasn't a member. He's been helping us, so we're very happy to have him working on that now. So would somebody,
Madam Chair, with Scott Hodge not giving approval, should we table that one? or vote on it?
yes, we'll
Okay.
have to table that.
So I'll make a motion then that we replace Jenny Nag with Aaron Wiles.
Mhm.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Make a motion that we table the appointment for replacing Pat Bissaro.
Okay.
Support.
Is this coming from Jude, both
Yeah.
those supports? Okay, thanks.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you so much for everybody for getting us on the right track to continue in the progressive manner that we have done so far. So thank you all. Now we have the public hearing and for our truth in taxation, and I'd like to have our head assessor come forward and explain.
And Becky, we tried everything to get that mic working, so if you could talk loud, that would be great.
Okay. We're here to consider our millages for this year. And at this point, our proposed millages for 2015 will remain the same at 6.1322. The breakdown for that would be 4.5531 mils for township operating, 0.9104 mils for extra voted police millage, 0.17 mils for mosquito, 0.4987 mils for fire. I'm proposing that we keep the exact same millage as we did last year, and there's several reasons for that. We have Pulte developing our southeast corner of the township, and right now, to date, this year, we have 88 new build houses. Last year, we had 161 new build houses. They have a build out of another 2 years, and I don't see any developer coming in to replace all that building growth that we're seeing. Also, there's the new emergency services that's going to impact our taxes, but we haven't got all the information to know exactly how it's going to impact our taxes yet. I wanted to go through this truth in taxation so that you can understand what has happened. Basically, what has happened overall is that we've had so much growth this past year, that we brought onto our tax roll, that the way the law is written is you have to take a rollback so that you're not collecting any more tax dollars next year, even though you've had all this growth, than what you did the year before. I did some calculations on here, and it's $8.82 more in tax dollars per $100,000 worth of value, taxable value in a house. I also did the calculation without, if we did take the rollback, the increase of 44 cents. We've gone backwards so much in our taxable value, and we're finally starting to recover. There's several things, you can see here at the township. When people walk in, there's less people in departments, older vehicles that are being driven. We just really, truly had a need to do this truth in taxation, and keep the millage as high as we can, because if you vote tonight to take the rollback, it's gone forever, until you go to the vote of the people again to try to get it back. I mean, it will just keep rolling back, because I can already see next year we're gonna be here again next year.
We also have, you also have to take into consideration that the state has hit us, okay? We are now collecting the personal property tax on small businesses. The personal property tax on the industrial base hasn't even hit us yet, which amounts to approximately $500,000. So these things, that's still coming to hit us and outside of this factor. So we need this.
Ms. Savata, I have a question. You mentioned new emergency services. Can you explain that? I mean, because of the expanded growth, we're going to need emergency services?
No, in June, we were required to turn all our personal property roads over to the state. And when we did our personal property this year, there was a box that we had to check based on what the taxpayer had given us. And they had to check the box whether they felt they were going to be qualified for the emergency services exemption. There's a calculation where fire and police will be funded in a different way, not off our tax base anymore, but they haven't let us have all the information yet.
So residents have been able to check off this box?
No, the businesses, the industrial businesses, manufacturing.
But they may not be able to afford it, you're saying?
No, I'm saying that the law was passed that they'll be funded in a different way. They'll have a different tax rather than personal property. And we don't know whether it's the entire tax, a portion of the tax, what part of it will go for fire and police. But we aren't going to receive all of our personal property off the manufacturing properties anymore.
I don't think he's even appointed the people yet.
There's actually a plan to phase out personal property altogether over 10 years, so.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just had a comment more than a question. Thank you for your presentation. That and some of the emails and memos and so forth you've sent out have answered my questions, so I'm okay with that. I would like propose next year, we've done this before and gone through this, if we could have more of a presentation of this to the board during the committee of the whole meeting and then a hearing,
So we can answer
the public hearing. So we are better prepared with any questions we may have to arise from that, but that might give us board members a lot more knowledge going into this rather than the night of the vote, okay? So for next year. So thank you, you did a great job.
I have another question. So I just want to make sure I understand. So we had quite a bit of growth over the past 2 years with new builds.
I counted, we had 161 new houses last year. We had Culver's come in, Bagger Dave's. Sarah did some additions on his stuff. I mean, there's another assisted living going in that we hasn't hit our tax roll yet. So we've got a lot of growth going on. And we have to provide services, utility billing for all these things. And if you take the rollback, you still have to provide the services, but you're going to be using the same money that you had last year if you take a rollback on this.
Any other questions for her?
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would like to, in all that was being said here today, I want to make sure that the public does understand that if this motion passes to prevent the millage from rolling back, basically the rollback amounts to 0.08 mils.
Yeah.
Not a tenth of a mil or not a quarter of a mil, but 0.08. I just want to make sure. In that, in fact, what we would be doing in voting in favor of this is leaving the millage where it presently is. It's not a tax increase, it's just a prevention of a millage to roll back this 0.08.
And I have another comment. I can guarantee you that next year with this growth, our mosquito millage will go down.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I can already see we're going to be going down next year.
So if your home went up in value, if it stayed the same as 2015, if it stayed the same as 14, there would be literally a zero net change in your tax bill. on the township levy. You know, I can't tell you what would happen with the counties and all their stuff, but if your home goes up in value, as somebody said, it would be $8.82 per $100,000 that your home was valued at.
Taxable value.
Taxable value, yeah. So if you have a $200,000 home, it go up $8.82. I would say up, it would really, it's not gonna go up,
No,
it's just
it's
not
not.
gonna go back
Yeah,
$8.82.
right.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah, right.
If the rollback happened, it would go back $8.82. This
we
would
did-
just keep it where it's.
We did take a small rollback last year.
Yeah.
It was minute,
Right.
but we did take a small rollback last year. But we're just trying to maintain.
The reason I was so vocal about this is Tuesday night, you know, I was not going to vote in
Right.
favor of this truth in taxation. Becky, through yourself and a couple of board members, you guys have convinced me that it's the right thing to do for Grand Lake Township. Rising healthcare. The intent of the law was if you know, if you were blessed with a community that went up in value, growth, and influx of people, that you just weren't going to collect any more tax the next year, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you're expected to
Yeah.
add services,
Yeah.
police, fire, and health care for the employees
Exactly.
without any increase, right? So I've now convinced myself.
Well,
So,
okay, very
I'm
good.
not trying to
Go
convince
ahead.
When
anybody
they
in the audience,
created
I'm
the
trying to
Headley-
convince myself.
When they originally created the Headley Amendment,
Yes.
your value of your home might have gone up 10% and what you pay taxes on went up 10%.
Right.
And this was trying to keep it
Right.
with cost, closer to the cost of living, rather than just tax people out of their home.
I will allow,
I have a comment that I am still, I guess I have a little problem with this, but given that the state is putting the burden all on the individual and letting businesses escape their fair share of their public duty to the community, and I'll probably support this, but I think the state, this is unconscionable. It's putting it on the individual solely, and that's just my comment.
okay. We had one question back here, Becky. Yes, sir, in the yellow shirt, you had a question for Becky?
Yeah. My name's Joe Kimmich, I'm on 6211 on Muirfield Drive. I understood somebody say that this really wasn't an increase, but according to what I understand, when reading the notice in the paper, it's a proposed .05 increase in the mills, all right? And I'm just wondering, taking that .05 times the taxable property that we have in the township, what does that amount to per year?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, we're saying that we're proposing a .05 increase in mills
No, it's not.
operating.
No, we want to keep the millage exactly the same as it is last year. So
It
basically what we're saying is if your 2014 millage was one rate and it only increased by the cost of living in 2015, you might see a slight increase in your taxes, but that would be the cost of living adjustment. If you look on your tax bill, the millage rate would be exactly the same as it was in 2014.
So what you're saying is that our tax coming up is going to be a minor change. Is that what we're saying?
It's, you know, for a house that's worth $200,000, it'd be $8.82
Per year.
For the
per year
year.
for the township millages, the millage of the
Cost of
township.
living, yeah.
The mic isn't working. Joe, what was your last name and how do you spell it?
FUMICH,
And your address was 6211.
6211,
What street?
Muirfield Drive,
How do you spell that?
MUIRFIELD.
Thank you.
You have one more.
Yes. My name is Joe Massey. I live at 2272 Lake Ridge Drive. I have a couple questions here. one of my questions, I don't understand for tax year 2015, what does that mean? That's one of my questions.
Tax year 2015 will be the December taxes, your December tax bill that's coming up in 2015.
So it'll be retroactive?
No, it'll be in the upcoming winter tax bill.
Oh, okay,
It
okay.
hasn't happened yet.
Now, my other question is something that I really have a feeling for, and I don't think we'll really get good services, and that's with the mosquito. That shouldn't be attached to this. If you do a survey, especially in my area, everybody's totally against the service that's been received from that. I understand that there's supposed to be calls made, but I think they're ripping us off. And I think that the board should consider looking at other sources, other companies, when it comes up for bid. That's my personal view of this. Because just listening at subdivision picnics and not even mention the subject myself, bringing up the subject. Others have negative comments. We still have a lot of mosquitoes and et cetera. So I'm very much concerned about it. Also, my other comment that, I don't know your name, Rebecca, but I'm sorry to say this. The way you explained it, I am still confused. And I think I have a young man up there, Dr. Reg. I think he's saying the same thing I'm saying, but he said it more political, that I am just confused. I mean, I didn't understand the words you really said. I shouldn't say a word, but the way you explained it.
Basically, without this hearing, we have to reduce our village so that we're not collecting any more tax dollars in the upcoming year than what we collected last year. But we'll be expected to give the same services that we're giving now with more houses and less money.
Well, let me ask one question, and this may clear it. If this does not pass, what happens?
The millage will roll back to 6.0440. The millages will be reduced on everybody's tax bill. And the township will have no more money to work with this year than what they had last year.
I thought you were going to say something else.
What?
I thought you were going to say we was going to be in financial trouble.
That's the year after.
Explain that part.
Oh, okay.
One more, and then we have to quit. Yep.
Jim Rabine, 9608 Pine Valley Drive. I think just to clarify, your proposal to keep the millage rate the same as last year.
Right.
Yes.
So if our assessed value, or SEV, on our property doesn't change from last year, we would not see any increase or decrease.
Right.
I think what people here are saying is how much is going to go up anyhow. I have to believe with everything improving and market conditions improving and things selling faster and for more, that the residential class SEV is going to go up by some small percentage. Can you tell us what that average is, or your best guess of it?
1.6% increase over last year.
So will be this particular portion of our tax bill, if
For
we
most
are the
residents.
average, it will go up 1.6%.
There's 4 ways that it wouldn't. One is if you bought in 2014 and the property uncapped. If we went out and did re-inspections on your neighborhood and found anything that we didn't have prior, building permits, that would make it different, and possibly splits and combinations, so.
But none of that has happened, and it's the same
The
property
bulk of
as
the
last year.
people will see the 1.6%.
1.6 increase in what they had. Thank you.
Becky, what was the fourth point that you said that would have
Splits and combinations. When property.
If you had 18 acres and you sold off 6 of those.
All right.
Thank you very much, and now it's time for the vote. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, this is, if there's no more questions, then I will end the public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Wait.
Oh,
when you read these, you need to dedicate .7 mils to the police department debt.
Oh, all right, yes,
We had one more question.
yes.
Are you gonna do public comment?
Regular public comments coming up.
Yeah, right.
This is only for the truth and taxation.
This is only for the truth and taxation.
Okay.
Well, that's what I want to talk about.
Well, okay, well.
There we go. I want to thank Becky, this thing doesn't work, does it? Enter 72124. I want to thank Becky for a presentation, and I want to thank Mr. Kent for explaining it in layman's terms. Thank you. And mosquitoes, they're doing a good job on it. We're going to vote on it and get it another year, aren't we?
Yeah,
I think that comes up. Thank you.
okay. Any other public comment? Yeah.
Yes, my name is Joe Massey, 2272 Blake Ridge Drive. My comment is the treasury report. The way it's laid out here, and I am criticizing, it doesn't make much financial sense to me. There's a lot of assumptions that have to be made. Okay, so I would like to see a much better job done with the financial report, the treasurer's report, I should
You
say.
want a separate treasurer's report with the agenda? Is that what you're looking for?
I guess if I look at the solid waste fund,
Mhm.
Can I ask, are you looking at it on the agenda?
yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
that's the only thing I have to look at.
No,
I have to go online.
you can go online and it has the detail of all those items.
And we start putting the whole board packet on there, so everything is on there.
So you can see every check that amounts to all these items, it's online.
You can go on the township's webpage and see everything we have. If we were to put the treasurer's report in the
Okay.
agenda, we'd have a 19-page agenda.
Yeah.
So that's-
Okay,
that's
I
why
agree to what you're saying, but you should have made note of that in the report.
Well, it's
Oh, the-
online, you go online.
the
you can see
packet.
it.
Well, I mean, you're just not telling me.
I think that's a good point, and I'll start making that a little asterisk on the agenda that this information is available online. Because it hasn't been for a very long time, it's only a recent thing.
Thank you
We
for coming
start-
out, people. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We start putting
Madam
everything
Chair.
on there. So that's a very good point, Joe, because people wouldn't know to look for it unless it was.
Well, no wonder you're speaking out because you're the treasurer and you did this.
Well, there's a lot of information, you should look at the whole packet, because there's detail on everything that we discussed, okay? Because the
But
highlight
in its
is in.
defense, that's relatively new, though. That's relatively new.
Right, but just like if you say, okay, we have one item on here, if you go to the detail in the master file, it will detail all the items, so it explains everything, because these are just highlights.
Madam
And
Chair.
and mine is too, so
Can I ask a question?
we'll have an asterisk on
Yes,
it
Mr.
that
Massey?
says.
Yeah.
Where did you get your agenda from?
As I,
Okay, all right. You can actually look at the agenda probably about a week before the meeting. And the packet, if you go on the website and go to documents, you'll see the packet for every, for example, we have the planning commission. Do you want to see the detail behind what's planning commission? The packet for tonight's meeting is about 60 pages long. So the checkbook, there's lots of detail there, and if you need more, we can get it, but check it out, in advance of the meeting if you want online, and if we need to have more information, then we can work on that.
And you can call any of us in the meantime to find out when you're looking at the website. If you want to call us and ask us about it, you can call the DPW director for him, you can call Earl for the treasurer's report. Any of us will try and either answer your questions ourselves or take you to somebody who will.
thank you.
I think Mr. Massey's point was, though, that there was no way for him to know that prior to this being said.
I agree.
And I think that's an excellent,
Yeah.
excellent
It is.
suggestion.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect to put that.
So you are gonna put the asterisk in.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna put that on there, I think that's a great
Thank
idea.
you.
Joe, the other thing is, the agenda really doesn't, the board packet doesn't usually get loaded until Friday morning before the Tuesday, so that people have the weekend to look it over, because we don't get the reports in usually. It's not a week in advance, it's a weekend and a day.
Okay.
And I want to make a public comment about mosquitoes, because we've got two opposing views here. I get the mosquito calls for some reason, the clerk's office gets them. And just this week, I had a different township call me, and they want to start with our company. And two other townships are thinking of going with the mosquito program. And I know there's a lot of mosquitoes sometimes, and if you're out there, can you imagine what it would be like if we didn't have those sprays? You probably wouldn't even be able to.
Okay.
You can imagine what it'd be like without it.
They would be like
Goodrich.
Goodrich.
Yeah, just visit Muddy Township, Goodrich,
Yeah.
Davidson, and
Yeah.
you'll understand.
So I know 3 other communities are looking into it this week. They've called me about it. And I also get the calls that it's not working, so it's back and forth. But one thing is, if you call Rose and there's a 2-week waiting list at least, and I'm on it, 2 weeks, they will come out and check your property again and figure out what the problem is and retreat it. But you have to call them. I can't call for you. You have to call the homeowner has to call.
Madam Chair, one of the things I'd encourage you to do too, Mr. Massey, is to talk to your neighbors and encourage them to call as well, because it's real hard to localize mosquitoes just to your yard. Especially, I think you have some woods near you maybe, or what have you, but if you call, get your neighbors to call as well, so that now it isn't just your property, they're working on adjacent properties and giving them permission to go on the property. And that's what I do in my neighborhood, is encourage my neighbors to call as well, give them the phone number. And actually, I haven't had a 2-week wait this year when I've called them, but.
I called late in the season.
Okay,
Yeah.
but they've actually put down, earlier this year, they gave a report, and they had used twice the amount of granular
Larvicide in it, yeah.
larvicide than what they did all last year. And they've also brought down 3 extra people from the Saginaw area. South of I-69, according to them, has received just, a lot more rain, and so they're bringing people from Saginaw down here actually, and they have, instead of 2 people, they have 5 people on the road this year working on it.
And
So,
if you
whether
have,
that's worth-
sorry, and if you have neighbors with swimming pools that are like open, or
Kiddie pools.
kiddie pools, things like that draw the mosquitoes, old tires,
Bird
creeks,
baths.
things like that, that will draw more mosquitoes, and they need to know that so that they can treat that area. I think they're really good. I mean, I don't like getting bit, but I think they're good. I think they're doing a good job.
This gentleman has his hand up.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I live in the Heights area right behind here,
Mhm.
and that truck goes down the road about 30 miles an hour, and the fog goes up about 8 feet in the air. I don't see how it's helping us out, because the mosquitoes get all pissed off, and they're
Yeah.
biting us more.
That is their least effective method, and they will tell you that when they come here, and they do tell us. The most effective method is when they go to the houses, to the creeks, to the ponds, and people like that truck. People think that they're getting sprayed and it's getting covered, but Rose Pest Solution will tell you that's their least effective method.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
The reason, there's a reason behind that though. They have mosquito traps all over Grand Lake Township, Rose Pest Control does, and those traps count the mosquitoes based on the average per area. And only when the traps collect a certain number of mosquitoes, or the mosquito count is what they consider above the standard or above their threshold, will they send out that truck to help control, that helps control the adult mosquitoes. 80 to 90% of what they do treats the larva, kills mosquitoes before they're even hatched. And that's what they go out and treat with the granules and the stuff and those standard waters. The mosquito truck is 10 to 20% of the total effectiveness of what they do.
Well, when we came to the first meeting on the mosquito control years ago, and it showed how they went in and sprayed all the trees and everything. When that truck goes down the road at 30 miles an hour, I couldn't see that happening.
Well, in the first place, they try, I don't know whether they're going down at 30 miles an hour, but I know that there's a GIS on each truck that they keep track of how fast everybody's going. So they do have an eye on that and have a record of every truck's speed. The actual count, not only that, not only are these mosquitoes, adult female mosquitoes are counted, but they also test for West Nile virus. So all of these 14 traps throughout the county, you are assured when they do that, that they are testing for the West Nile virus, so that we are safe from that.
14 in our township, that is.
Yeah.
Actually, the most effective way that
Yeah.
they control mosquitoes is they breed in water. And so you don't see this, but they actually treat all the sewers. They treat streams, they treat, people have a low-lying area to collect water. There might be some areas they don't know about, but if somebody calls them and tells them, they'll go out there and treat it. But that's where they're the most effective, and they're out there actually in March, beginning the treatment process. And the problem that we've had this year is the excessive amount of rain. Every time it rains, they have to go back and treat all those sources of water, the sewers, the ponds, ditches, what have you. And it's very tough. As much rain as we receive, dilutes that stuff, and basically the mosquitoes can start breeding again. But they told us the amount of mosquitoes that can breed just in a bird bath that is left out, and the water isn't changed daily. And I mean, it's millions of mosquitoes. So it doesn't take a very large source of water for you to have a mosquito issue. We've had residents that have a boat parked in their backyard, and it's uncovered, and that boat is just a mosquito factory. Or swimming pools that
covered.
Aren't covered, or there's water sitting that are just mosquito factories. And so they're looking for those things too, and residents can help by identifying those. But the truck really, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, they aren't being very effective, but really that's just kind of a quick fix, and the best way is they're treating sources of water. And if you have an issue, I would encourage you to call them and get your neighbors too, and I guarantee that you won't have a problem if they come out, at least for a while. If it doesn't rain the day after they do it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Madam Chair, I am Linda Riles Massey, and I live at 2272 Lakefish Drive as well.
I was going to recognize you when it came time for the voting on your board, and then you took off at that time.
Well, I was calling Mr. Conklin for you. But the reason that I stand, and it's nice to see the police here, thank you for being here, but my comment has to do a lot with the activities, the events that have been going on with black males and the police departments in other areas. So my question has to do with what type of training are our policemen getting to de-escalate situations and to understand that it's not about ego and power, that they are truly there to serve. And how are we managing that with the diversity that is changing within Grambling Township?
I think Chief Stam can answer you quite adequately on that, okay? Chief Stam?
And my last comment is, I realize that it might be difficult to diversify our police department. I understand that you might have some difficulty getting other minorities to join the force, so I'd also like to know what efforts are in place to diversify your staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll start with that one first. We always take applications based off qualifications. And then we take the best qualified applicant, regardless of color, race, et cetera, and hire the best qualified candidate here. Our last group that we hired, we had out of the 4, 1 is an African-American male. That gives us a total of 2.
And he is qualified, not just to check the box.
Yes, he's an excellent officer. We have an excellent department as far as what we do race relations wise. The training that we're putting on is called Fair and Impartial Policing, based out of Washington, D.C. and out of South Florida. It's with Lori Fredell and Anna Lazio. They came in and did an exceptional job for us in training. Battle Creek Police Department and Department of Public Safety in Kalamazoo will be coming in October, training our staff and our officers on impartial policing. Because all of us have biases.
Yes,
It
we
doesn't
do.
matter who it is. We all have biases. We just have to recognize them and work from and recognize them. We try and treat everybody fairly and make those provisions. When we do get a complaint, it doesn't matter what kind of internal complaint, it's usually given to the sergeant originally. He writes it up, they investigate it, and then they come to my office for review, which is the official thing.
Thank you so much.
The other thing that we do, we work very, very hard in the minority community. We're actively involved in the Flint All-Pac. If you've never heard of the All-Pac, I am the co-chair of the All-Pac, myself and Erica Hunter.
Thank
So
you.
we're working very, very hard on that. We just had a Cleveland pastors luncheon, our second one, with the North End pastors, the both African American pastors, like Clint Marshall.
I know him very well.
Quint was the one that was leading in along with Marvin Jenkins and several others.
Marvin Jennings.
I just saw Marvin at the RHI scholarship on Saturday, which I golfed. So,
My husband golfs too.
so we were down there in Woodfield. So we're actively involved. We're trying to bridge that gap, trying to get the community involved. Today we had a luncheon with Flint Stride. Are you familiar with Flint Stride? Over the last 3 years, we've had 2 students. This year we only had 1 student. Today was a luncheon of the graduation. So we take those individuals that come from disadvantaged backgrounds, bring them into law enforcement, try to educate them on what law enforcement has to offer, not just the sworn capacity, but non-sworn capacity, to try and change them, get them into school, they can stay in school, show them what's available to them, the opportunity. So that's what we do.
And one of my clients had a Strive student too this summer, so that's nice to hear. Madam Chair, the reason that I bring this up, not because of all of the events that are going on, but also too, when we were having a discussion at the GDL about possibly closing down the branch at Genesee Valley Mall, we were talking to everyone about other branches that they could visit. And we had several men of color who said they don't come into Grand Blanc because the police officers mess with me. Whatever that means, I don't know. And they were not willing to go into any specific detail. So I just wanted to make sure that our police department is sensitive to the diversity. Still do your job, but recognize that we all have biases and we don't escalate, we de-escalate. Thank you
And
so
one more
much.
thing to plug, next Wednesday at 6 o'clock at Woodfield from 6 to 8 will be our 3rd or 4th Coffee with the Cops series.
And we will be here for vacation on Wednesday, so we'll have to make the next one. I'll
Yep,
have
the
to
next one should be
schedule.
at Fountain Point over at Hilton Houses. We're trying to schedule that one. So,
See, when everything works out, the chief was here, and I know Dr. Reardon, you're a retired police officer too.
Yeah, and I was going to make a comment that back in 2002, Grand Blanc, we developed a professional policing policy that addresses racial profiling. Officers should not do this, and we trained our officers on that from 2002. And so we, in Grand Blanc, we've tried to be to the forefront of how to treat people respectfully. And we, every year, we have training on impact weapons and all that, but part of that is de-escalation verbally. So that's our first, that was always our first avenue, is to talk people down versus to aggravate the situation. And I do want to also add that I know way back then, we sent people to officers to recruit kids from Mott Community College, and we saw applications from minority people. So it's, I think we've tried to be as progressive as we can. And racial profiling, I will tell you right now, Chief Stam, if he knew that was happening, somebody better hold on, because he would not tolerate it.
It's nice to know that all of these tools are in place, because given the climate, every time my husband leaves the house and he's not home by a certain hour, I worry. And there are many wives who don't have to do that, because this is the country in which we live. So I'm glad that you're making those efforts.
we are always welcome to come in, ask questions, if you have thoughts or concerns, always ask.
I do.
Information is great.
And I had not planned to stay this long when I got
And Linda, I appreciate you bringing this to the board, because that's one of my sensitivity areas too. And I would like to see a lot more diversity all over the township, including on this board.
This board
This
as well,
may I
yes.
say, including on this board.
Are you getting applicants though? Okay, that's good.
I think the last time we, Captain Miles, Matt, do you remember how many applicants we had? About close to 70-something?
78, I believe.
78, and out of the 78, we ended up getting back about a little over a dozen, and out of that dozen, we may have only had maybe one minority candidate.
as long as the effort is.
But that's not just with our agency, the criminal justice all over, state police, everybody. We are suffering from lack of
Diversity.
people of colors applying it. It's very, very difficult. It really is. It's a hard sell, and given everything going on today, and we're having less and less people involved in public safety.
Absolutely.
Or in government.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Board.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bill. Yes, sir.
I want to commend the Grand Blanc Police Department. They've done a real good job of cleaning up our neighborhood.
Good. Thank you. They like to hear those things. I appreciate it. All right, is there any other public comment? In that case, public comment is closed. May I have the approval of the minutes?
I've moved for approval of July 7th and July 9th and July 28th.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Mr. Guzik, time for your report.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to present the monthly bills. The general total is $1,095,314.68. The DPW total is $1,026,800.51. And the solid waste total is $109,629.32, for a grand total of $2,231,744.51. Move approval as presented, Madam Chair.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. There's no unfinished business, so we'll go on to new business. And the board, we did this, didn't we?
No,
Oh,
you never got through
Oh,
the
we
whole
did vote. Okay. The board will consider a resolution to authorize a levy of 6.1322 mills on property located within Grand Blanc Township for the tax year 2015, composed of 4.5531 mills for township operating, 0.9104 mills for extra voted police, 0.1700 mills for mosquito, and 0.4987 mills for fire.
I'm willing to make that motion, but we're supposed to say 0.7 mils for the police department.
Oh, I'm sorry?
And so,
If
there.
that is a motion, I will support.
Okay.
You have a question, Mr. Chairman?
No, clarification that the points, there is the .914, Madam Chair, that
Yeah.
you did state for the extra voted police. There's .7 within our 4.5 levy.
That's what it, yeah, okay. I was just reading what was here, yeah.
.7 on the 4.5.
Yeah,
It's not an extra amount.
Yeah.
She wanted that delineated. So-
Okay, very good.
And the reason we have to have it delineated is because of our bond ratings. We stated originally when they did it back in 2006 that they would allocate .7 out of the general operating township
Mhm.
that was gonna go to pay that bond, so they knew the cash flow was there, and we were dedicating it to that bond and not
Okay.
just using it at, so
Right.
that's why we renew it every year this way.
I'd just like to make a comment, is that I'm in favor of this, but only because it's not increasing our taxes.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Me too. That's why I did it.
Okay.
Because I don't want to increase taxes
We
either.
have a
This will be
motion and
roll call.
support.
Yeah. Mr. Kent,
Yes.
Dr. Reardon,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Guzik,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Yes,
Myself, yes, and Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
thank you. We can move forward. Okay, the board shall consider approving the BS&A annual service support fee of $13,805.
I'll make the motion that we consider approving the BS&A annual service support fee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. The motion passes. The board shall consider approving the sum of $72,825 to Case Construction Company Incorporated for repairs to the training tower of the fire station at 5371 South Saginaw.
I'd like to make the comment. I did email everybody earlier today, and I understand that there was some discussion on Tuesday about this, and how much I'm repeating, I'm not sure, but I understand that other fire departments utilize the training tower.
Well, if it's workable,
If it's
no.
workable, they will. And I would ask that we consider, it may not have to be tonight, because I understand we need to move forward, but that we take a look at possibly having a nominal annual fee for other other fire departments to use that, just to basically cover maintenance, so that we don't get in a position again where we have substantial repairs and other people are using it. So just a nominal fee annually.
Okay.
Madam Chair. I got a couple of comments to make regarding where the funds are coming from, balancing the capital projects fund as well, before I would even be prepared, but I'd like to speak to Mr. Bennett's concern. In theory, it sounds like the right thing, the fiscally sound thing to do, right? However, in a county like Genesee County, where we have a mutual aiding police, mutual aiding fire services, we don't, when Burton comes down here with their aerial to assist us in a full-blown structure or commercial fire, they never send us a bill, nor do we send them a bill when we take our aerials or equipment vehicles out. It's never been something within the community, within Genesee County. In fact, we even go, and Mr. Smith could tell us, we even go beyond Genesee County. I mean, I know we go to south to Holly.
Right.
It's within the public safety profession that our public service, our mutual aiding agreement cannot be compromised. The training tower, even there's only 2 in Genesee County, the training tower serves kind of as that, albeit it's in Grand Blanc's possession, and we do seem to have to pay the nickel for it, right? But it benefits everybody in Genesee County to have that tower up, working, and safe, right? And I mentioned Tuesday night that I even had the opportunity to don full-blown turnout gear and go in a search and rescue for they put dummies in there, and I wasn't the only dummy going through. But it's just like I mentioned Tuesday, it's like the kids practicing fire drills at school, and you're getting people trained and conditioned for the real emergency. Hope to God it never happens. But when those folks can go in there to the smoke-filled room and they can rappel, and they can do the things that becomes second nature, doing it over and over. I'd hate to think that Burton can't have that opportunity to do live smoke-filled search and rescue because they can't use our building. And I know you're talking a nominal fee. I just hate to see the mutual aid thing. Nobody charges between communities. So that's just something to consider.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Just it has to go a little bit deeper into it. When, let's say that a fire aerial truck does come here from Burton, and maybe our chief can answer this as well. Typically, there is a fee that the fire department charges to that commercial building, or at least they have insurance. Most commercial buildings do for fire. Do we charge for that at all?
More times than not, no.
No?
It's not a very common practice. There's been only one other fire department that I know of that has actually charged another city, and that's because they emptied their fire department, called other people in for overtime from their fire department to go into a city to put out a structure fire.
Okay.
Something else I'd like to add too, and kind of what you said, is a lot of the other fire departments that train in that tower with us, that not only could, for example, a Clio firefighter train in our tower, well, Clio has their own, but another neighboring community, and save a life in that community. But on a mutual aid call, the life that they save could be a Grand Blanc Township, or Grand Blanc firefighter, or Grand Blanc Township resident. So it helps all of Genesee County, I think, to have that tool.
I won't be so greedy then.
No. I didn't mean to stop.
No, it's okay.
Well, I think that's something.
But I did have a comment directed more towards the funding.
Yes.
However, I just spoke in favor of the need for this tower. What I wanted provided by this evening was the fund, either the account number for the capital project that we're gonna take this money from, and the balance after we spend the $72,000. Do you have it?
Our treasurer, our financial director is not in this week, but I did go back and dig out some records.
Yes.
In the capital improvements fund, which is the 497-100-970-956 account, there is set up a contingent fund, which is just called general expenses contingent fund, okay?
Yes.
And that had 100,000 in it, and the balance now is 95, because that's where they pulled up the 5,000 when they did that, the arches, because that's a capital improvement, so 5,000 was taken out, so currently there's 95,000 in there as just the general expenses, okay? It was allocated in our budget, so it's there now.
Well, that's getting part of the question answered, and you did it very well, Mr. Ruzek. It lets us know we did have enough to pay for it, right? Okay.
Right.
You know, I have asked in the past, and I'd like to, I guess maybe I'll just have to take the initiative on this. Now that we got the new township manager coming in, I would like to see a plan for cap. You know, we put $100,000 in there every year. We had a balance higher than that, I think, last year. But we don't really, I don't like to just have it laying around for an unforeseen thing. I'd like to see a plan with the capital improvement fund, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was trying to find the detail and I couldn't find it, but I agree.
No, you did a good job with the.
They should be able to have a plan that says, but you gotta make sure you don't rule it out, because
Yeah.
if something else occurs,
Yeah.
because it's for capital improvements, if something emergency happens to this roof,
Right.
that's where they pull it.
Right,
Okay.
so that's what we're using that miscellaneous line item for in the past has been more or less emergency purchasing.
Yes. it is.
Right.
See, that's what I mean, then we would have
It's
a
called,
laid
yeah.
out plan for the entire capital project fund or improvement fund, okay? I'd like to see that.
You know, just like we do for DPW for
Yeah,
vehicle
yeah,
replacement,
exactly.
Yeah.
or police for the police
Yeah, I
guys.
think we should have more detail there, so maybe we can work on it, expand it, and make sure we, but at this point, it is there.
Yes.
We haven't had a motion on this yet, but, so we can go with discussion.
Yeah,
Still?
go on with discussion.
Okay. I think the document that I got from Mr. Heiser, I think it shows right now, as of December, $32,000 balance, is that correct?
It is.
And then I think there was a second one, Larry, maybe you could answer, was he projecting a deficit for the June?
No, there's a tax bill coming in from the city for
Okay.
that, but I think the end of the year, the projection was that my computer shut down and battery died. I apologize.
But roughly 32,000 in December, right?
That's
Okay.
what I reckon.
So this is my general comment on all of this. All this money is township residents' money, all of it. It all belongs, or city residents. But the fire, it's a township and city, it's the Grand Blanc money. And, if 32,000 is not a huge amount to have left at the end of the year, and I agree with that. But if this fund balance grows, then I think the township and the city should either cut back on their contribution, so we use that money, we just don't let that 32,000 grow, because we can, if that money was in our general fund, we could do something different with it. I'm not saying, I'm all for training, I'm all for training for the police, I'm all for training for the fire, but again, this is money now that if it's in the fire department's fire commission, I don't know, if it's in theirs, I mean, the city and the township, we contribute to that. That is really the city and the township residents' money. And I just hate to say that we're not going to touch that 38,000, or they shouldn't contribute X amount for the fire tower and X amount for Station 1. because that is fire department Grand Blanc money. And it's not a matter of being, we're landlords or anything. We're not charging anybody rent. This is all township money, all city money, Grand Blanc money. And I just don't think that we should have these kitties built up, because I know, the police department turns over their excess money every year, everybody does. And so that's my general comment. Having said that, they don't have enough, and so I'm all for paying for this.
Yeah,
But I just don't want us to think that we should just build these
yeah.
kitties.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a comment on that. As the representative on the fire commission, the fire commission is not a cash cow that's sitting on a pile of money. Our fund balance at the end of the 2014 fiscal year was a whopping $11,233. The fire commission, be it the city and the township, cannot legally, under any authority at all, own real estate, own property. We are expected to pay for and maintain our equipment. And when I talk equipment, a new fire truck is between $400,000 and $500,000. Our ladder truck is due to come up to be replaced in the next couple of years. A ladder truck is $1 million now. So an $11,233 fund budget is not like, well, hey, let's just put a new roof on this year because we got some money. We've got to save up a lot. We have to grow that number to maintain the equipment and the other things that we have or are required to fund out of our budget. So
I agree. 11,000 isn't that much, and 30,000 isn't that much when we consider the size of a budget. But I thought that the township was putting away X amount of dollars every year for equipment for fire trucks in the future. And you're right, they can't own property, but Attorney Laddie said that they can pay for repairs.
they can pay for repairs, but
And so that's, owning properties, it really doesn't even enter into this.
and don't forget, it was on Tuesday's presentation, the city's not expected to sit back and laugh while the township pays for the reconstruction, but the city's paying for the repairs of a new roof and some additional repairs at station number 1, which is city property.
And I agree, and my comment Tuesday was that the city and the township take their percentages and to offset them, because that 30-some thousand that's left there is not all the township. I recognize that. I recognize the city is entitled to their portion. And I would think that we would, like I said, it's all Grand Blanc money. But a $30,000 balance is not as much. I thought it was going to be a lot higher. So.
At this time, I made a mistake by not asking for a motion first before we had the discussion. But at this time, I think we better have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay?
Support.
Who's for Larry?
Larry.
Okay.
Is that yours?
This isn't a roll call.
No, this isn't a roll call. That's what I was waiting.
One more
Yeah.
comment. I would like to piggyback a little bit on what Dr. Beard said. And through you, Madam Chair, to our representative of the fire department or the chief. In fact, the chief wasn't there when they did the renovation to the city building for the facilitating the full-time firefighters. Could you tell me who paid for those repairs? I'm hearing something probably different than that the city did not pay 100% of those changes.
I wasn't on the fire commission at that time.
Paid for our fire
Bush
commission
was,
budget, which was 80% funded by the township.
The previous city mayor refused to pay for some repairs and improvements to the building. That was not a substantial amount of money. We changed out some doors, we used some locks, and rearranged some furniture.
Anyway,
Yes,
I would
that
like
is
to,
correct.
yeah, I would like to see,
But that previous administration was gone.
one could consider, even though there's real estate that that tower sits on, but somebody could, by a stretch possibly, interpret that is a capital piece of equipment. It's like the jaws of life, right?
Yeah, right. Mhm.
Okay, so to Dr. Ritt's point, there could be a funding, a replacement, or a repair fund in your budgeting process next year that sets aside money for repairing things such as training equipment.
They
Because
have-
that's no different if that was on wheels in a trailer,
Mhm.
and we
Yeah.
parked it down in the city.
And
We
they
would
do-
be expected to share 80% of that cost as our split between the city and township.
And they
So
do-
something to consider, Larry, down the road. I would like to see, and Chief, something like that, a line item that just like you do with your capital budget for the equipment replacement, we should also have a capital, future capital for repairs. Because we know that repair you're doing today is not gonna last forever, right? That's gonna be probably a 7 to 10 year fix on that building.
At least, if, I'm hoping at least 15 years, to be honest.
Same thing though, right? I mean, there could be maybe something that you might like to add to that building, you know, for the repelling and those kinds of things.
Fire station.
You know what?
A fire station.
Yeah, fire station.
Okay.
But anyway.
We are looking into, one thing that the fire commission never had before, especially as it was a part-time department prior to going full-time, is a real valid maintenance schedule on our equipment facilities. And that's something that Chief Savetter and the fire department is working on through the fire commission right now to develop a maintenance schedule where, okay, we're gonna do this every 5 years, we're gonna do this every 7 years. So we do have plans in place to start saving money for anticipated known cost.
Time for a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. The board will consider approving a resolution that will authorize the township treasurer to sell, transfer, and administer the assets of the Oakwood Cemetery.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
All those in favor?
Well, this is roll call. isn't
Oh,
it?
this is, yeah, resolution.
Could I just make a comment? Just for the public, the only reason we're doing this is we have some stock that was given to this particular fund, the Oakwood Cemetery Fund. And we've been trying to, when they get their dividends, have been given to us in stock. We're trying to tell them not to give us in stock because we want it in cash. Because the person that gave us the stock originally came from a trust, and the trust stated this stock could never be sold, okay? But it does say that we have to sell and transfer, but that's a legal term that had to be put in by the attorneys, okay? But technically, all we're doing by authorizing this is allowing me to say, we don't want any more dividends coming. We want no more stock dividends. We want cash dividends so that we don't get reported on our year-end audit report because we're not supposed to be accumulating stock, okay? So that's basically all it's for. But it looks a little misleading, but I just want to clarify what we're doing tonight.
This is something that for the last 2 years, our independent financial advisors have been advising us to really.
And they have changed some of it.
Yeah.
They have changed some of it, but it seems to be coming back. But that way, if you have someone authorized to say, no, this is what we want, if it pops back, I can say, okay, here's the record I just signed, why is this coming back? So we're just trying to prevent this from happening. And it's a small item, it's not a large item.
But
it's just a.
it is important
It
to
is
our,
important,
it
right.
is important to our auditors. yes.
Right, we don't want it on an audit anymore, is what we're trying to do.
Okay, Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Guzek?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Reardon?
Yes.
Mr. Kim?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, motion passes. The board will consider, we've already done E, so the board will consider approving the request from Police Chief Stam to purchase one titled dual-purpose narcotic patrol tracking dog with the 4-week handler course from Northern Michigan K-9 in Harrison, Michigan for a price of $12,500. This will be paid for with money from the drug forfeiture fund.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Have your new dog. Okay. In regard to reports, my deal has been taken up lately with the Back to the Bricks, okay? We cut the ribbon yesterday for Back to the Bricks, and then we had the staff had a potluck get-together out here, watching the cars and so forth, going fast. We will be having the concert there tomorrow. And
then where is it at? That's at
it's
the
in
Grand
front
Blanc
of,
facility, right?
yeah,
GM
right
facility?
in front of the GM, on the grass in front of the GM facility, yes. And we're planning on every one so far, every event so far, and this Back to the Bricks has been, they've had to turn people away because of the size of the crowd, and so we're kind of expecting that same thing tomorrow, so if you're interested, get there.
Get there early.
Yeah.
Nothing to report on the fire commission from our previous meeting. We do have a meeting coming up Tuesday, August 18th at 6 p.m. Fire Station Number 1 on High Street in Grand Lake.
I'll go ahead, Nikki.
Yes.
The Planning Commission and Metro Alliance, I'm passing around, if anybody wants to come up and take a look at it. One of the things that was on our agenda for our August 6th meeting for the Grand Blanc Township Planning Commission was a final site plan review for the Genesis Senior Living Village, which is basically a proposed skilled nursing on Baldwin Road. It works its way around several of the protected water that's there, and the layout is quite extensive. They're going to be starting the first phase. We were in the final approval process. They did make a few changes to the materials that they're going to use. So if you want to take a look at it, feel free. Actually, the other item that we discussed was our ordinance on food trucks and trailers. There's a place on Maple Road, Pick It and Lick It. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but they actually want to, they've had much interest in other entities locating on the property with food trailers, so we're looking at the ordinance or zoning to allow how much we want to allow that to occur. The Banbury apartments that was up for discussion, that actually, from what my email from David Lady, that won't come up until spring as far as back to the Planning Commission. But I'm asking for some clarification from our attorney on the use of that property, so it isn't a done deal quite yet. And the August meeting for the Metropolitan Alliance has been canceled, and we'll be meeting in September. But I'm very glad that Ms. Shapiro will be joining me.
Okay, good. Clark?
No report.
Okay. Larry, Parks and Rec?
Again, no report from Parks and Rec. We have a meeting coming up this Thursday, the 20th, at the Parks and Rec building. We'll be looking forward to getting some updated information. I'll share with the board on the new building and how it's being utilized.
Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Very good.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.